At a point in the year when we reflect on the sacrifice, the cruelty, and the horror of war, Uppingham's Music for Remembrance is an annual pause for quiet reflection. We cannot be together in the school chapel this year, but hope that the words and music presented here will help us reflect more deeply and find glimmers of hope for a world in which violence is still very real and war still destroys so many lives. War destroys homes and landscapes. It ruins lives and minds. Bald description can never meaningfully capture the terrible destabilising nature of violence, which is why poetry has often seemed the natural language to describe the indescribable. This year, the poems we'll hear are all linked by a shared motif: birdsong. Soldiers in the First World War trenches reported their astonishment at hearing birds still singing overhead once the massive artillery barrages were over. One moment there was nothing but the noise of destruction. The next, angelic choirs singing from high above them. The sound became a natural symbol of innocence, peace and hope, and it crops up repeatedly in war poetry written ever since that date. In tonight's first reading, the Czech poet Miroslav Holub finds the bird's joyful song twisted and bent by man's apocalyptic destruction. But for Isaac Rosenberg and Siegfried Sassoon, it becomes the transcendent symbol of freedom and beauty. Then, to conclude, near the end of Sebastian Falk's famous novel, appropriately called Birdsong, a soldier climbs out of the trench where he's been sheltering with an enemy to find the war ended. And as he walks across the now peaceful no man's land, he hears the lark singing high above him.
The bird had come to the very end of its song, and the tree was dissolving under its claws. And in the sky the clouds were twisting, and darkness flowed through all the cracks into the sinking vessel of the landscape. Only in the telegraph wires a message still crackled. COMEYOUHAVEASON.
Sombre the night is, and though we have our lives, we know what sinister threat lurks there. Dragging these anguished limbs, we only know this poison-blasted track opens on our camp, on a little safe sleep. But hark! Joy, joy, strange joy, low heights of night ringing with unseen larks, music showering our upturned listening faces. Death could drop from the dark as easily as song, but song only dropped, like a blind man's dreams on the sand by dangerous tides, like a girl's dark hair, for she dreams no ruin lies there, or her kisses where a serpent hides.
Everyone suddenly burst out singing, and I was filled with such delight as prisoned birds must find in freedom, winging wildly across the white orchards and dark green fields, on and out of sight. Everyone's voice was suddenly lifted, and beauty came like the setting sun. My heart was shaken with tears, and horror drifted away. Oh, But everyone was a bird, and the song was wordless. The singing will never be done.
Farewell, my dear, I must be gone and leave you far. If I roam away, I'll come back again, though I roam 10,000 miles, my dear, though I roam 10,000 miles. Oh, yonder doth sit that little turtle dove. He doth sit on yonder high tree, making a moan for the loss of his love, as I will do for thee, my dear, as I will do for thee.
They brought up Jack's body, and when the men had rested, they dug a grave for him and Joseph Levi. They made it a joint grave because the war was over. Stephen said a prayer for Jack and Levi for his brother. They picked flowers and threw them on the grave. All four of them were weeping. Then Lamb went looking in the dugouts and came back with water and tins of food. They ate in the open air. Then they went back into the dugout and slept. The next day, Stephen said he would have to rejoin his battalion. He shook hands with Kroger and Lamb and then with Levi. Of all the flesh he had seen and touched, it was the doctor's hand that had signaled his deliverance. Levi would not let him go. He made him promise to write when he was back in England. He took the buckle from his belt and gave it to him as a souvenir. Gott mit uns. Stephen gave him the knife with the single blade. They embraced again, and clung to each other. Then Stephen climbed the ladder over the top into no man's land. No hurricane of bullets met him, no tearing metal kiss. He felt the dry, turned earth beneath his boots as he picked his way back toward the British lines. A lark was singing in the unharmed air above him. His body and his mind were tired beyond speech and beyond repair, but nothing could check the low exultation of his soul.